It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
The best place usually to start is at the beginning.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's talk about the 0 to 13-year-olds. This is what I'm hopeful is that you're motivating and creating the next generation of financial mutants.
Yep, love it.
And here's what I'm hoping goes into that. The first thing I think as a parent or as a young person, you're hopefully building the skill set is what is the value of a dollar?
Yeah, it's funny. When I talk to my daughters, again, my kids are very, very young. And what I find so interesting is they prefer change. So I can offer my daughters like a $5 bill or 2 shiny quarters. And you know what my daughters are going to pick? They're going to pick the 2 shiny quarters. And I think that when we're young, that's kind of the way that we view the world. It's not until we actually do begin to understand the value of the dollars, the value of the money, that it begins to start click and make sense for us.
This sounds like manipulation of young folks. I mean, I used to pick on my poor little brother because he was 5 years younger than me. I always wanted to sit in the front seat and want him in the back seat, but I'd say, I want the back seat. And I knew if I said I want the back seat, he would run to the back seat and I could jump in the front. It sounds like you trick your daughters the same way with the 2 shiny quarters versus the $5 bill. But here's the part, I think the teachable moments. I'm trying to help you teach needs versus wants.
That's
and
huge.
I think there's some exercises you can do to actually start instilling this so they do develop that value of a dollar. I know when we go to restaurants, now look, there's 2 things. First, if they're on the kids menu, if it comes with a drink, I expect you, as a tightwad, you're probably going to take the free drink.
Of course, it's a free drink.
But if it's not free on the kids' meal, don't let them get the drink. I mean, go ahead and the scarcity sharpens the blade of building the ability to deferred gratification. Take a little bit of today for that great, big, beautiful tomorrow. So that's actually a great teachable moment because then you can also explain that $2.99, there's an opportunity cost if you spend that money now on that drink versus what it should be. Or also just share with your kids, look, I have a common thing. Y'all going to think this is horrible. I just tell my kids we can't afford stuff.
I love it. What's funny is when I was growing up, if we ever went to a fast food restaurant, it was a big deal to get a Coke or a Sprite, and I recognized it was a big deal. I don't want my kids to lose sight of that and just think, oh, it's a given. Oh, an extra $2. Oh, an extra $3. That's a given. I want them to know that there's, just like you said, there's an opportunity cost to making that choice to spend that extra amount of money.
Every now and then we're also in like a dollar store or a 5 and below where all the goods in there are pretty affordable. And I think the tendency for a lot of parents is to let your kids, get what you want, be happy. I turn it into another discipline exercise where I'll say, hey, pick out the one thing you really want. You don't get 2 or 3 things. Pick one thing. And look, I know it's slightly painful, but at the end of the day, you're helping them hone those skills of discipline and being able to figure out what's a need versus a want and working through the critical skills that you're going to need in life. Because that's what you're really trying to work to make sure that decision matrix in their head is leading them on the right path.
Now, so one of the things that I do, again, my daughters are super young, and they're 5 and 3, and so even trying to discern between like needs and wants is difficult because obviously me and mom provide for all of their needs, and so pretty much everything they desire is really a want. So one of the things that we did is my daughter recently lost her first tooth, and so the tooth fairy brought her some money, and it was super exciting. And one of the things I wanted her to get like very early on is that whenever we get money, no matter if we're working for it or whatever, there's sort of 3 categories we have to think about on how to do that. And this is actually a picture of her with her dollar.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to walk her through whenever we have financial resources, there's a giving component that we ought to think about and a gratefulness for like how we got it and what we should do with that. There's a saving component, how we need to think about the future. And then there's a spending component. So what I'll actually do is for her, I broke her dollar into change, and I'll let her pick and choose. Okay, how much do you want to get into the give side? She has a little piggy bank with 3 compartments. How much goes in the give? How much goes in the save? How much goes in the spend? And then whatever's in the spend, we can go to the 5 below or the dollar store and go spend.
You did give her 4 quarters, not just 2, because she liked the 2 shiny
I
quarters.
probably gave her 4 quarters.
Well,
probably gave her 4 quarters.
I do love the decision matrix of give, save, spend. Simple enough, but also is kind of when you start thinking about how you need to break up your financial decisions, that's great footwork to kind of making a long-term great decisions. We've also talked about the marshmallow test.
Yep.
This is one of those things where you can ask your children, and you have some experience share on this too, Bo, where you said that because you have 2 daughters, Barrett, your oldest,
Yep.
you were able to offer her a jelly bean. Tell that story.
Yeah, so what I did is I was putting her down one night, and I said, "Hey, baby, I've got this jelly bean right here. I'm going to put it on your nightstand. In the morning when you come see Daddy, if you bring me this jelly bean back and you don't eat it, I'll give you 2 jelly beans." Well, the next morning when she woke up, she literally came downstairs holding it out in front of her saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." She was ready to cash in her jelly bean. I have another daughter that's a little bit younger. I have not tried it with her because I know
She's
if
a
I
little
said,
too young.
I said, "Baylor, I have as soon as I got jelly bean," she'd have already eaten it and she'd be looking for the next one. I just know that they're wired differently like that. But it's interesting. My daughter, I'm recognizing if there is like this savers gene that you think about, I think my oldest might have that savers gene. She might get deferred gratification.
Might be an opportunity in the wonderful world of finance in her future. So we'll see what happens. I think it's interesting. I'm always a numbers person, and I've told you guys when I was younger, one of the highlights for me was in high school. I had that teacher that taught me that if I could just start saving a little bit right now, I'd have an awesome amount of money. I'd be a millionaire in retirement. We've decided, we talk about the army of dollar bills. We talk about it when you're 20 years old, every dollar's worth $88. Yep. We expanded upon that. And let's talk about what we've done for people who are 0 to 13 years.
We thought this was so powerful because it's really cool for $1 to turn into 88. But what we said is, what happens if you start at 0? And again, we said, let's just assume a flat 10% rate of return. We didn't want to be too aggressive with it. But if it's cool for $1 at age 20 to turn into 88, it is way cooler for a newborn, someone just starting out their life. Every dollar that gets put away on their behalf can turn into $647 by the time they get to 65.
I mean, I think, look, if you're a parent or grandparent, when you see a stat like that, I want you to ask yourself before you give that little plush. Now, look, give them a stuffed animal. Maybe instead of having 10 stuffed animals, they only get 1 stuffed animal. Because I think most kids play with the boxes more than they actually do the toys. This could show you how powerful. Even if something's only $10, that could be a tremendously valuable opportunity in the future if that money was put to work for them.
And so one of the things that we've always had available is we actually have a deliverable out on our resource page. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have a deliverable called How Powerful Are Your Dollars? Or we like to sort of dub it the Wealth Multiplier. We said, why don't we take that even a step further? Instead of starting at 20, let's go all the way back. And what I think is remarkable is that not only can every $1 that you invest at age 0 turn into almost $650, but if you wanted that newborn to be a millionaire, how much would you have to save each month for them to get there? It's about $13.
Wow.
$13 a month to get, that's less than 50 cents a day, isn't it?
And look, and if you're an inflation person, because I have so many people tell me, well, yeah, but by the time they get to be 65, $1 million won't buy it. If you doubled it to $2 million, it's still just $25 a month. Pretty incredible.
Less than $1 a day to be a millionaire, which is really, really remarkable.
So, guys, you can see a lot of benefits. The biggest thing is for 0 to 13, the money skill sets that are going to create success in the long term. Understand the value of every dollar. If you can instill that in your children or grandchildren, that's what you're hoping they pick up in that stage of life.
Yep.